we go. I'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, and welcome to the May 16th meeting of the City of Ann Arbor Planning Commission. Commission public meetings are held the first and third Tuesday of each month. Both of these meetings provide opportunities for the public to address the commission. All persons are encouraged to participate in public meetings. Citizens requiring translation or sign language services or other reasonable accommodations may contact the city clerk's office at 734-794-6140 via email to cityclerk@a2gov.org or by written request addressed and mailed or delivered to the city clerk's office. Requests need to be received at least 2 business days in advance of the meeting. Planning Commission meeting agendas and packets are available from the Legislative Information Center on the city clerk's page of the city's website or on the first floor of City Hall on the Friday before the meeting. Agendas and packets are also sent to subscribers of the city's mail notification service, GovDelivery. You can subscribe to this free service by accessing the city's website and clicking on the Subscribe to Updates envelope on the homepage. Can we have a roll call?
Absolutely. Commissioner Ackerman. Commissioner Briggs.
Here.
Commissioner Klein. Commissioner Gibb Randall.
Here.
Commissioner Mills.
Here.
Commissioner Milstein. Commissioner Trudeau.
Here.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Here.
Commissioner Woods.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Number 3 is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Okay. You want to move the agenda? Great. Commissioner Woods and seconded by Commissioner Weatherby. We vote on this.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? All right, great. Then all in favor, please raise your right hand and say yes. Yes? All right. We don't have any introductions
We do not.
or minutes of previous meetings.
No, we have several outstanding that are in draft form, but we'll be getting those in front of you in an upcoming meeting.
Okay, great. Item number 6 is reports from city administration, city council, planning manager, planning commission officers and committees, and written communications and petitions. Our city council rep isn't here, but I understand the planning manager can cover what was of relevance last night.
Yes, at the city council meeting last night, the fiscal year 18 and 19 2-year city budget was approved, which included planning services again. So that's good. The budget also included a $750,000 planning allocation to support updates to various city planning documents, not just the master plan, other planning documents as well. So there'll be a lot of opportunity in the coming years to do some updates across our organization. The Bibby annexation on Clarendon, which you had previously recommended, was approved for annexation by City Council. And then lastly, a contract with Giffords Webster Engineers was approved, and they are the selected firm to initiate work on an update to our sign ordinance. So you'll be seeing some of that as we progress going forward.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any planning commission officers or committees that need to report out? Go ahead, Commissioner Gibb Randall.
So I'm the liaison to the DDA, and we just had our meeting last week, and we are kind of working on parallel tracks in terms of downtown parking, and they actually have some language that they've developed. So so that we don't reinvent the wheel, it would behoove us to make sure that we are having an open dialogue with them around some of the parking changes that they're thinking about making in terms of, as it relates to developments downtown too. So it was something that we brought up during our annual meeting, and they seem to be kind of on the same track. So I was pleased to see that they've already got some momentum going, and that there might be a lot of ways where we could be well aligned. So we just need to keep the dialogue open.
All right, very good. Any other reports? Okay, the next is written communications and petitions, and there were 2, I think, that were posted online, and there were 2 more in your packet, so I just want to draw your attention to that. All right, Item number 7 is audience participation. So this is the first of 2 open opportunities for the audience to participate. Persons may speak for 3 minutes about an item that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. And if you would like to speak, please state your name and address for the record and write it on the form. Come on up. Oh, if you could come up to the podium, sorry.
My name is Marguerite Dillard. I live 1020 Fairmount Drive. I've been an Ann Arbor resident since May 2014, and I represent and serve as Earhart Knowles Homeowners Association, which is on the northeast side of town. Thank you.
Do you have any comments? Okay, very good. Thank you for making your introduction. Anyone else that wants to address the commission? And again, there will be an opportunity at the end as well, and during the public hearings. Okay. Next item is item number 8, the public hearings that are scheduled for the next business meeting. Do we have any?
We don't. That agenda is still being finalized because of an extra Tuesday in the month of May, so you'll be seeing that via an email update later this month.
All right, very good. So we are now to item 9, which is our regular business. For each of these items, we'll have a staff report, a public hearing, and then commission discussion. If an agenda item is tabled, it will most likely be rescheduled to a future date. If you would like to be notified when a tabled agenda item will appear on a future agenda, please provide your email address on the form provided on the front table at the meeting. You may also call Planning and Development Services during office hours to obtain additional information about the review schedule or visit the planning page. All right, I think we'll go to our first item, which is the 904 South Main site plan for city council approval. The petitioner is proposing to construct 4 condominium units with 2 parking spaces per unit, which will be provided in garages under each unit on this .28 acre site. No stormwater detention is required. The project is proposed to be constructed in 1 phase, and it is in Ward 5. So we'll turn it over for a staff report.
Okay, thank you. So again, zoning map here indicate the parcel, subject parcel is indicated by the blue outline there on the corner of Davis and South Main. An aerial photo of it, there is 1 existing house, which will obviously be removed. So here's the site plan. So the petitioner is proposing 4 attached townhome units with 2-car garages underneath the main units, each one of them. There is currently 1 curb cut servicing the site. That will be removed, and basically there will be 2 curb cuts now. 1 would be shared between 2 units. I'll go back, there is no, as was mentioned, there's no stormwater that's required because the site has less than 5,000 square feet of total impervious surface. There is 1 landmark tree located on this site, which is kind of you can see the outline here in kind of the bottom left of the image. It would be the southwest corner of the site. A 24-inch walnut, that walnut will remain. They are planting mitigation trees required for a conflicting land use buffer around the entire perimeter of the site. So it's about a 15-foot wide buffer that will go around the west as well as the south side of the site that will be planted. There will be I think there's going to be about 23 new trees that will be planted on the site. One issue that was mentioned previously was a concern regarding the visibility for the site along the corner. This was mentioned as a neighborhood resident, as well as I believe one of the planning commissioners had also mentioned that concern. As you can see from the for the photo of the existing conditions right here, there is no sidewalk that goes along West Davis currently. There is a, sorry, we'll kind of go to the photos here so you can see what we're talking about. So there's a tremendous slope you can see there with a retaining wall. The concern was regarding visibility at that corner. There will be a sidewalk that will be added along Davis. So I'm going to back up now. So what I did was zoom in on the site here. You can see as existing conditions, it's a rather steep slope, and obviously it leads to retaining wall and straight down. The result of this plan, that retaining wall will be going away, and they're easing the slope down a little bit. So it'll be significantly improved versus a steep, more or less a wall on one side and then a pretty steep incline along South Main. That will be evened out a little bit, or much more. The slope will be gradual, so there will not be the visibility issues as there are right now. So that will be significantly improved over the existing conditions. Now here you can see some massing drawings. On the left is the proposed project. In the middle there, this kind of house is a proposed house that would be built on a separate parcel. And then just to the right of that is the under construction Davis Road project that was approved, I believe, 1 or 2 years ago. Here's a architectural elevation sketch. You can see the side facing us here basically would be the south main facade, and obviously this would be extending along West Davis. A couple of photos of the existing site. Obviously, the house again will be removed. So this is looking east along, so you see the steep slope, obviously part of retaining wall. Oh, and there's a photo of the existing Davis Road to give you an idea of the character and style. So again, at this time, staff is recommending approval of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have the public hearing. For public hearings, individuals may speak for 3 minutes. The first person who is the official representative of an organized group or who is representing the petitioner may speak for 5 minutes. Additional representatives may speak for 3 minutes. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and if you'll also write it on the form that's available. So if anyone would like to address the commission, please go ahead and step up to the podium now. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And now I read the motion. Okay. The motion reads, the City of Ann Arbor, or the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the 904 South Main Street site plan for city council approval. Can I have a commissioner move this? Moved by Commissioner Briggs and seconded by Commissioner Trudeau. Now we can have commission discussion. Who wants to start? All right, go ahead, Commissioner Weatherby.
All right. I have a few questions. Full confession, this is a site very near and dear to my property. And a spot that I look at all the time, and I am quite familiar with it. So hopefully my questions will be not tinged by the neighbor hat. But so I did have some questions. First, a couple questions for staff. It looked like in the packet that there were some questions about the sanitary sewer, and that or not in the packet, but online, that there were maybe some things that weren't answered about a sanitary.
Issues that were unresolved.
That's what it sounded like.
I may deflect those, I apologize, I may have to deflect those to the engineer. She is here, present, so she could definitely answer those questions.
It sounded like there wasn't sure where the sanitary went or what cutoff would, there were just a few notes in the packet, and I wasn't sure what that related to. I know we have had backups in basements in that area, and so it was something that I just was interested in.
The only comment I remember seeing in there is one where they said that they were still going to model the system to make sure that it had the capacity to handle the new development. And I believe that that's been done and resolved, and there is capacity.
Okay.
That's what I remember being in there.
All right, yeah, I should have printed that out or noted it, but, okay.
We can double check as well before it goes forward to planning commission, to city council, to make sure that any outstanding issues
Okay.
would be addressed, absolutely, before it
Okay.
goes to council.
Okay, yeah, just because it has been a problem in the area.
Yes.
And just wanted to make sure. So, let's see, the next thing, maybe for staff, maybe for the petitioner or engineer. I think definitely there aren't problems with standing water in that site. It's right in the middle of a hill, and water runs right off of it. The question I do have is the driveways to so water does rush quite quickly past this, and I'm just wondering, I'm worried a little bit about the water coming into the driveways as it comes down the hill
If
there.
there's a drain at the bottom of the driveways, I will reflect, sorry, well, I'm
Okay.
going to deflect that again to the engineer. I
Okay.
assume there's a trench drain at the bottom.
And that
since
it doesn't, it's not gonna go over that and into the.
No, there are
okay.
trench drains at the bottom of both the driveways, and then there's actually a slight slope up to the
Okay.
driveway after the
Good,
church.
because I know the existing driveway does have a slope up, so water doesn't get in there, but,
Yeah.
all right. And then, let's see, oh, I'm really happy about the sidewalk on Davis. I realize that it doesn't, you know, we're getting there to an actual sidewalk that connects all the way through, but with these couple parcels, we're headed down that road to have more sidewalks, so that's a good thing. What I really, my biggest concern on this is it feels a lot like this parcel happened to be on Main Street, which was considered an unfortunate thing by the petitioner, and they totally faced away from Main Street. And that, to me, is really disappointing. The existing house, you can see big wraparound porch, big imposing house looking out on Main Street. As I walked down here, I traversed almost the whole length of Main, and every single house had a front door, a porch, you know, something that looks out on Main Street and has a good presence on Main Street. This has very little presence on Main Street, and it is up on the hill. It's sort of the big spot on the hill, and I realize that isn't something that you would have to do, but I think that it is unfortunate that this proposal in no way addresses the kind of community, the Main Street side, and I feel like that is it's kind of a little bit of a, it's not good for the community, I don't think, when buildings face away from Main Street. I think that's unfortunate. I also think that it's probably not so good for the people living there. I know a lot of people living on Main Street seems like a bad thing, but people actually come and they sit on our porch when we're not there. They ask if they can come sit on our porch on Main Street because it's so cool and it's a neat place to be. And these, you know, having that presence on Main Street is actually a really big deal. So I just, you know, I know the petitioner is here and I know has probably heard some of this before, but it's just very disappointing. It's very disappointing that there is no presence on Main Street. It is as if, I mean, the same treatment on the west side facing the side of somebody's house is the same as it is on Main Street, and I just think that's very disappointing.
All right.
To your first concern, I just wanted to follow up. The city engineer has recommended approval of it. No outstanding issues that would get in the way of that. They have completed the capital cost recovery, which was completed. They've clarified how the leads would enter the building. And I think there was an outstanding issue. Maybe this is what you were getting at, that normally the water main sizing doesn't meet the requirements for the R4C district, what they would normally be looking for, but it meets what is existing in that location, so it's satisfactory to their lens.
Other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Briggs.
Just to follow up on that last comment of Commissioner Weatherby, could you show the side profile of, yeah. So I guess this is a question partially for staff and then partially for the petitioner. It looks like, to address some of your concerns, there actually is a side patio facing Main Street there. But I'm curious if which potentially brings some, you know, folks sitting out there, sort of a porch situation, but I'm not sure what the landscaping is along there, if that's something that ends up blocking Main Street, or if there's an opportunity to, could you talk a little bit more about what's anticipated there?
I'm Mark Reuter, the architect, and the actual facing on Main Street grew out of the neighborhood meeting that we had at the public library. And one of the residents there who lives across the street brought up the idea that he would like a little bit more animated facing on Main Street there. So we had already had a a door wall there and a patio on that side of Main Street on both sides. So we made a more articulated canopy over the door wall there and overhung a kind of a bay window over that to provide a sort of a sense of interest on that side. And that's the same as on the other side also. The patio would be a place, there would be a lot of neighborhood activity out there. I'm thinking much like a front porch, although it's not a porch. It would be a patio, and it would be, materials would be chosen by the owner of that condominium probably, and it would be a nicer patio than the one facing the house immediately to the south, which is pretty close. So I'm kind of thinking that even though there are two potentials for patios there, the side that faces Main Street would be much more pleasant than the side that faces the apartment house next door. So I'm thinking that people there probably would develop that as an outdoor space more than they would on the south side.
Just to ask about the landscaping, is landscaping sort of screening that patio from the front from Main Street view, or how's that, what's anticipated currently?
It's not part of the required landscaping plan there, but the residents probably would landscape that so that it's not a very high. Fences would not be allowed there. A low fence would be allowed if they wanted to do that, 4 feet. But landscaping would probably be kept sort of low so that you could look over it, because the views out are quite nice across the street. So I don't think people, and there's not a sense of having privacy there. So I think people walking by on the sidewalk would see people entertaining there. There'd be umbrellas and tables in the summertime, and it could be quite a large, nice place. The same on the other side, too.
Okay, thanks. And then, that's it, thank you.
Thanks.
And then the follow-up question on this, just from obviously this is 904 South Main Street. But this is a project that really feels like it's on Davis. And I don't know if the city ever just, I'm just thinking, from sort of like the police, fire truck gets called. I mean, I know it's not very hard to figure out that it's on the corner. I don't know if ever projects, if a parcel is then moved to have an address, like in this case, so now it has a Davis address as opposed to South Main. I don't know how that works. I was just curious.
Well, they look through part of when they'll pull building permits as well, as addresses are going to be assigned. And through that address system, they may very well keep this address. But when they look through that system, I mean, they run it by the post office and the fire, make sure, so issues like that. So that does, we don't personally look through that, but that is thought of through the process.
Okay.
So the address necessarily here might not be what it ends up,
Got
or
it.
they might name it something.
Something different? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but in short, they could change the 904 South Main. I think it's like, that's the petition under the current property.
Yeah.
So.
Got it. That was it. Thank you.
Other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Gabriandel.
Is this a condo project, or how is this? So does each owner control a certain amount of the yard, or is it owned by, I mean, because you were, the architect was talking about, the tenants would do something, but if they don't control it and it's not part of the site plan, there's no guarantee of any of that. And so I'm just wondering, oftentimes you're kind of stopped at the property line, or you have 5 feet around your unit or something like that. So if you could explain the nature of the residents and their ability to influence whatever is around them, because they may not even be allowed to landscape that hill, which
Right.
is shown as extensively landscaped in the rendering, but then there's no indication of that at all on the site plan.
I'm Dan Williams with Maven Development. I'm the builder on the project. It's a homeowners association that will control the site. Within that, if they want to do additional landscaping from what Kathy issues to the city, they'll do a vote as the association. Saying that, I would think in most situations, in associations, that everybody's going to agree to the look and feel of the surrounding site in its entirety. So that's something necessarily we can't control until it's turned over, but when it is turned over, generally, kind of rule of thumb, people that are further west would want, you know, in a vote, that area to look similar to what maybe the person on the furthest west has. So it's a vote for the association, but general rule of thumb in associations, it's a majority vote.
So then you will just stabilize it with seed on that steep slope then?
It'll be stabilized with sod or seed in regulation with what the grading permit is required with the site plan that Kathy submits as part of the approval.
So is it, looks like 1 on 3 or 1 on, like when you're returning those grades as you. It's not 4 or 5, 1 on 4 or 5? So it is mowable, in other words, without flipping your machine onto the sidewalk on Main Street? Okay.
Yeah, and, we have some room there that we can even
Pull it back a little more. Yeah, it would be nice to not have the kind of, I mean, the reality is the point doesn't quite exist anyway, but it would be nice to kind of ease that out, I think, which would also make the visibility even easier in that area too. So, okay, thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Matt, can you put up the picture, the colored drawing? Yeah, that one. I was just curious, I don't know if this is for the architect or who, but how close is the picture that we're looking at going to be to what we will see there once the project is finished? In terms of color and, I mean, that looks very inviting right there. So, just curious what it's
When
gonna
Jeff
look like.
Kahn was reviewing the sketch, he made sure that the submittal to the Planning Commission looked exactly like what my sketch looked like. So if you were to look in detail at the elevation drawings on the Planning Commission submission, you'd see that the drawings are very much the same as that.
Mhm.
And the other thing I would add is we've started the construction drawings, and I've been going through a lot of detail on that, and so far nothing has changed. That's-
Okay, good.
Colors are another matter, so those can,
Yeah, I know we can't control colors or anything like that. So I'm seeing what looks like a fairly large tree there on the, one of the curb cuts on that drawing. So is that something which is going to be planted and will eventually just get that big? Or is there already something there that's going to?
those are the trees recommended by the landscape architect on the engineering drawings. There, if you were to look at the site plan there, you'd see that because there's no room on the, between the sidewalk and the street for trees, we are going to place them between the driveways. And so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees there.
Okay.
And it escapes me what they are now. What are they, Kathy? They're lindens, I think. So they will get to be fairly large. And that'll be consistent with the rest of Davis Street, the single-family house that would be built. And then the Davis Row also has trees like that between the sidewalk and on the petitioner's property.
Okay.
So that'll be a kind of a nice row of trees along there and a continuous sidewalk. And I think the construction of the single-family house is scheduled fairly soon also. So that whole area then should have a major upgrade.
So then is it your contention or view that this development, along with the single-family house, along with the project to the west, that's almost a neighborhood in and of itself? Or, I mean, that's the sense I'm getting now, the sidewalks connecting,
Yeah, I think so. And there are small porches overlooking, just as there are on the other Davis project, there are small porches that along Davis, people can be looking out at Davis. It'll be a nice place to walk along there because of them.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that because I was listening to my colleagues' concerns about the fact that this project isn't facing Main Street and, drawing that as the center of attention. But it seems as if you may have made the best out of a site that's on a corner and sort of have the residents or those who are going to live there actually sort of turn sideways, but in effect, they may be having a better sense of community with the way that's turned. I also have a question then about those 7 trees that are going to be there. how big will they get? It might be, my colleague can tell us this, but I'm just wondering, are they going to obstruct any of the views as people are coming out of their driveways then? It looks like they're going to be 2 curb cuts, and between the 2, there are going to be 3 trees there?
Well, as they would grow, I'm assuming they would be limbed fairly high up so that maybe at 7 feet or something like that. So there's be plenty of views underneath the trees to see the street.
Okay. And would that be something that the homeowners then would be
The
in charge of?
association would
The
be
association?
responsible for that, as well as snow removal and so on. And the nice thing about that is you don't have individual homeowners probably just doing their little bit of sidewalk, you know,
Uh-huh.
and nobody else, so.
Okay.
All
And-
along Davis, there's a good chance that those sidewalks will be cleared by services, you know, hired by the associations, so.
Is there a connection between this development and the other 2 parcels that we?
Dan of Maven here is in charge of the other 2, so he could answer that.
There is a connection from the standpoint of me building all 3 parcels, but as far as the homeowners association will be 2 separate, and then a
Okay.
single-family home in between.
Mhm.
So, once they're done and turned over, there won't be a direct connection unless both units agree to use the same services, whether it's lawn, snow removal, et cetera.
Okay. And the sidewalk from the corner of South Main going down Davis actually will be connecting all of the developments?
They'll connect from Main Street to 309 West Davis, which will be, it'll essentially cover the 3 parcels,
Mhm.
and then it dead ends.
So a sidewalk going
To nowhere.
nowhere?
Mhm.
But it's more than we had before, right?
And there's sidewalks on the other side of the street, from
Mhm.
Davis all the way up to 7th Street, just not on this side.
Right, okay. And I think we probably have part of our city that's kind of looking at the whole sidewalk and connecting and all those kinds of things, so. All right, well, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Trudeau.
I would like to echo some of the comments made by other commissioners. I'm very happy to see the sidewalks going in and the grade being eased on that corner for the visibility. That's great. I'd also like to thank the petitioner for the color rendering. We don't always get those, and it makes it much easier to visualize what we're going to get. So that's much appreciated. I also sort of share the sentiment that as another homeowner on Main Street with a house with a front porch that faces Main Street, I'm a little disappointed that it sort of sits sideways and feels like it sits sideways. Although I do appreciate the efforts to make it a little bit more interesting. There's some other developments on my end of Maine that are similarly turned sideways that are much less connected to the street, but feels a little bit like a loss. And I have just one question that's kind of for my own education, and maybe for staff, about the conflicting land use buffer. That's something that came up with another project in this neighborhood. And what is the adjacent, is it because the zoning adjacent to the property is a different zoning?
No, actually,
Or-
they're all residential uses, but the
Right.
code requires buffer, conflicting land use buffer from one multifamily use to another multifamily use.
Okay,
And it's the same zoning, and like immediately to the west, as was mentioned, there's a single-family house going in.
right,
But it's R4C zoning.
right.
So, but it still requires a conflicting land use buffer, even if it was a multifamily structure.
Right, and R4C right now requires 15-foot side setback, or is it 12-foot?
Oh, boy, on the side, I think it's 12 for multifamily, I
12.
believe it's 12.
Yeah. So that's more than what they would even have to do for side setback, okay.
Correct.
It just seems like a lot of space to separate very similar properties, so. If the petitioner would care to comment on the challenges of incorporating the conflicting land use buffer in a site project like this and what they might have done differently, I would be happy to hear those comments, but if you don't want to say anything, that's fine. I just wanted to.
We'll hear those comments. We've heard.
So I would invite you to comment if you'd like to, but if you don't want to, that's fine. But that is all for me.
I can also comment that I think they may want that conflicting land use buffer between these nice high-end condos and the property next door. So, so I think in this case, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
You had your hand up before,
Yeah.
Commissioner Randall.
So I'd like to say in general that I really like the character of this, and I appreciate the rendering, and it feels like it's attempting to fit in with the neighborhood, which I really appreciate. We see a lot of big boxes, and it's nice to see something that feels like it's trying to blend multifamily with the neighborhood, so I appreciate the efforts around that. It's a beautiful hand rendering. It's hard to tell materials when it's all hand done and everything like that. If you could talk a little bit about, you know, are you using vinyl siding, using hardy board, are you using real wood? And give us a little bit of sense of walk us through the project. And then I guess I would also just echo, I'm a little disappointed in the Main Street facade. I appreciate that you went further. I feel like it could probably go even a little bit further. But I'm most interested right now in hearing about the materials.
Well, this is a street rendering of, showing, it's a CAD rendering showing all the projections, and so it shows what kind of relief you get with the shades and the shadows, and also on the Main Street side, you get quite a bit of shadow activity from the overhang. So that's what we tried to do by projecting some of the facades forward a little bit, even though the bays don't have floor area. They're used to shelter windows here. So the rendering that was given to the city, put that up again, maybe, Matt. The color rendering. So we've done this on Davis, a little bit farther down there, it's there also. On the lower part is a sort of a board and batten effect that's typical of the craftsman style architecture. It's a hardy board with 1x2 battens over it. And then the other upper levels here are hardy board siding, and which will be painted. The nice thing about hardy board is it can be painted lots of different colors, and then it has fairly large pieces of trim that would be like AZAC or some sort of Windsor one kind of wood that would be painted. So you see the large porches there would be accented by large columns. There's large columns here, and this band here would be painted contrasting colors. The windows have typical craftsman style tree over one windows. So the lower level here where the garages are, you don't see that too much, but we could have a little bit of brick, and I've indicated that on the color rendering there, because you don't see it so much in the straight renderings because it's down, but as you would walk along the sidewalk looking down the driveways, you'd want to pick up a nicer feeling down rather than just concrete. So we're thinking about a brick on that lower level or some kind of stone, probably.
Are there retaining walls? Did I see that in the plan? Like in the,
There are shallow retaining walls along between the driveways as each resident steps down 1 foot. So the driveways, instead of being warped, instead of the driveways being kind of warped with the asphalt, we have a small retaining wall that would be like a flower bed that takes care of the change in 12-inch grade between the garages. And then we'll need a low retaining wall of about 30 inches to 0 beside the driveways. And we may use, if it's feasible, some of the stone from the existing retaining wall there, keep on the site, because it's a nice squared ashlar stone. We might make nice decorative accents. And we have a retaining wall in the back to take care of the grade, so some of the stone might be used on that site.
that's why I was asking actually, because that square cut old granite is,
It's expensive to buy.
well, you just can't find people to make it anymore, you know, that know how to square it off in that way. And so I would highly encourage you to try to figure out how to incorporate it into your site in a really visible place, because that's, you know, part of our old craftsman heritage. And it would really be nice to not have them be unit block walls, but to have them be, it would be also a really nice way to kind of honor the place that was there too. So I would highly encourage you to do that. Yeah, it's a long wall and it's tall, so. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments? I have two short questions. One, a couple times you've referenced the large porches, and I'm just curious, because at least the version I had didn't have numbers on it. What size porches are we talking about?
Hope I didn't say that they're large porches on Davis Street, because they're not large porches. I didn't mean to imply that. The porches are approximately 7 feet by 7, I think, 7 by 7. So it's a lot of porches that we do, we try to get at least 7 feet, because it's enough for like a small bistro table and 4 chairs.
Okay.
So that, and it's the way the entry works is you come straight in, so the porch isn't divided in the middle by a access way. So the little sitting area is off to the side.
To the side, okay.
And-
I was curious if there was enough space for a lawn chair or two, and it sounds like maybe 4.
Yeah,
Small
if you-
table.
Right,
Small.
the bistro kind of tables are before, yeah.
Okay. And the other question, it seems in the staff report that there might be bicycle parking, that there are 4 spaces of bicycle parking. Where?
Well, I think since it's a single-family townhouse approach, there are 2 places people can keep their bicycles. One, we have under the porches, next to the driveway, is our garbage can corral. And that's where we keep the 2 as large as 96-gallon waste and recycling bins, as well as there could be bicycles stored there. Or the garages are quite ample in size. They're 20 feet wide, so there'd be room for bikes inside the garages. And I think that most people might keep their bikes inside.
Okay. This is a question for staff then, when bicycle, in this kind of situation, because there are 2 bicycle spots that are required, Class A. Is it just, you can just say the garage, or do you have to
Yeah.
have like a rack on the wall, or you can just say the
No,
garage?
I mean, really, on developments like this where there's essentially single-family kind of units and townhomes, as long as, what they have here is basic enough to tell that you'll be able to fit, where it's scalable, we can tell the dimension of that garage, you can fit a bicycle in there.
Yeah.
There's no need, because something we can't control internally what's going on in there anyway, whether we tell them to put a hoop, so, yeah,
Yeah.
we've accepted this. In some cases, we've seen them where they've been really tight, and we've pushed back and said, you can't even get a garage, storage or a trash can in there, let alone a bike.
Right.
So, but in this case, we felt pretty confident, yeah, there's enough room for a bicycle in there. And that's where most people would choose to do it anyway, so it's kind of pointless to put a hoop out in front of it.
Totally agree. I mean, this is more secure. I mean,
But we do
well,
look
and
at
that's the difference between Class A and Class C, or,
Yes, that's correct.
right? So, okay. I think that's a
Question?
fine plan. I just
All right.
wondered how that works. Yes.
I have a question just based on so you said that the garbage cans would be under the porches. Is
Mhm.
that in some sort of enclosed, just because garbage cans sometimes aren't the nicest
I
things?
think if you were to look at get the other drawing here.
Does this help? There's a zoom-in version.
So,
Oh.
I'm not sure you can see it on your, but as you come down the driveway, there's a paved area underneath the porch is right here. There's a paved area, and the garbage cans are hidden in a little corral way at the back of this. So you could come down the stairs, open the door to the outside, and put all the recycling and garbage in these bins, and then you would just haul them out to the curb, off the driveway. So each unit under the porch here can't see the garbage can, so you walk down the driveway.
Can we have you speak into the microphone? We can't get you on the camera.
Sorry.
Thank you. You can bring the microphone. It's got a little bit of coil.
All right. Does that answer your garbage question?
Yeah, I guess, My concern would be that the porches wouldn't be very nice if there's garbage underneath them.
Well, you know,
I don't know if there's some
the-
sort
the-
of,
The totes are pretty, I've put some really nasty stuff in mine, and you can't smell it outside. So I think that the fact that they're completely closed,
and is the porch, would it be like slats, or is it straight across,
it would be ventilated, right?
Okay,
So,
right.
so it's open on one side and ventilated at the top, so
Okay.
it's going to
Okay.
dry out and.
I mean, it's
or-
certainly convenient. and
I don't think it's
that
going
would
to
be-
smell. I mean, a lot of people keep their garbage bins inside their garages, on their French porches. I see a lot of people putting them in their garages, and,
Okay. All right, thank you.
While you have that up, it makes me wonder, so we've got garages down there. Is that a utility room, or I see sink?
There's a utility room back here. Utility room in the back. And also the center units, I don't know if you looked, any of these could be adaptable for an elevator too. So each unit will have a recessed pit for an elevator.
Okay.
And there's one elevator on the Davis project, and we do get a call from that. And the townhouse projects, quite a few of them have not, some people do choose an elevator, so it's something we designed in for the future. Because a lot of these people want that, they're sort of retiring from a big house someplace and moving to town.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Let me get my notes. Okay. Guess we're ready for a vote then. Okay. All of those in favor of the motion as read, please raise your right hand and say yes.
Yes.
Yes?
That's everyone. Thank you very much. All right, let me regroup. Okay, the next proposal before us is entitled the LA Fitness Maple Village Site Plan for City Council Approval. This is a proposed site plan to demolish the existing English Gardens building located at 155 North Maple Road and construct a new 34,000 square foot LA Fitness building and 150 parking spaces. The site will be accessed through the Maple Village Shopping Center and share additional parking spaces with the shopping center. The site is 2.6 acres, zoned C3, which is fringe commercial, and it's in Ward 5. So we'll start with the staff report, and then we'll have the public hearing before our commission discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go through a brief overview again. The subject site here outlined by the blue line, there's kind of a green line that runs through it, but right now they're currently two separate parcels. Those parcels will need to be combined before building permits are issued. So you can see a subject site on the south side of the Maple Village Shopping Center near the intersection of Jackson and North Maple. Well, as indicated, the site is Zone C3, which is our fringe commercial zoning district. Here you go, some pictures of what we're looking at here. We're backing up, we're looking straight into the site right from that picture there directly across, thanks to Google Street. Okay, so again, what the petitioner is proposing is demolishing the existing English Garden store and constructing a new 34,000 square foot building, which would be used for an LA Fitness recreational facility. The parking will be provided on the site as well as through a a permanent parking easement that would need to record for, I believe it's about 20 spaces or so, located along the existing, in the existing Maple Village parking lot. As was mentioned previously, there will be no new curb cuts to the site. They are able to utilize the existing curb cut that enters the larger Maple Village site, well, any of the curb cuts that enter Maple Village, as well as the one immediately adjacent that's the closest to the English Gardens, as well as the site where there's a bank existing there as well. The building is located at the minimum front setback, which is a 10-foot minimum setback in the C3 district. There is also a maximum setback in the district, but they are maintaining their building to the minimum of the 10-foot setback. There are a couple of natural features on the site. There are 2 landmark trees, a honey locust as well as another tree. Those will need to be removed. There's a couple of other volunteer tree species that have popped up along the property line. Those trees will all be removed, however, they will be mitigated as required by city code. Stormwater detention, as some of you or all of you may know, it's kind of been addressed in recent years. Maple Village has gone through a lot of improvements to that site, including adding detention facilities, infiltration islands, as well as upgrading the landscape and all that. The project was reviewed by the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commissioner, and they have issued their approval of the project as we speak. So the stormwater access and parking, we did cover the offset parking easement because they actually do not have the minimum required on the site. I know it looks like a lot of parking in there, but for a facility of this size, there's, according to our code, quite a few spaces that are required. They're also providing a large number of bicycle parking spaces. I believe it's in the 40, I lost the number here somewhere, but I don't know if you have it offhand. They're providing a large number of bicycle parking spaces in this area right here. We'll go through some elevation drawings. So what you're seeing here, so again, the building is located right at the 10-foot setback. The elevation on the bottom of the photo here is the front side that will face Maple Road. Above here, you have the side that's going to be facing the access drive. So it'd be basically north, and then this would be the eastern facade. And then here, so the main entrance is located off the main parking area to the west side. The top elevation you see here is basically kind of facing a retaining wall, a brick wall. There's a significant grade change between this site immediately to the south and this. Right now, there's a large retaining wall, and you could pretty much walk onto the roof of the English Gardens building if there wasn't a large fence there. So that grade change will remain on the wall. I believe they're going to be utilizing the existing wall that's there, but they can speak to that. It may need to be repaired in spots. And at this time, staff is recommending approval contingent upon the parking easement being recorded. They've also had last-minute details. They've been working on the engineer. I just earlier received a text from her that those things are going along smoothly, because that was noted in the staff report that there were some engineering issues that they're working on, various easements and things like those. But she felt pretty confident, again, with us recommending approval tonight, and anything remaining can be addressed before city council scheduling. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kowalski. Now we will have a public hearing. If anyone would like to address the commission on this issue, please, if you'll step to the podium, and do state your name and address for the record, and you can write it on the sheet. Would anyone like to address us?
Is this for the public or from the applicant?
The applicant is also welcome to address us.
Good evening. My name is Mark Salma. I'm with Bricksmore Property Group. We're the owners of the shopping center. And we've been very happy over the last year and a half with all the improvements that we've made to the shopping center. And we greatly appreciate the cooperation of the city and staff and everybody we've dealt with and our neighbors. And we're very excited about this next phase of improvement that we'd like to make to the shopping center. And unless there's questions, I'd like to give Gary Collins with Fitness International a chance to speak on behalf of the use that's going to go into this phase of the project.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Gary Collins, Director of Development with Fitness International. We're very excited about the opportunity to come into Ann Arbor. We have an existing location which was part of our portfolio through an acquisition, and this would be our next entree into the city of Ann Arbor as a new ground-up building consisting of our most recent prototype. So we're very excited about this particular site and the opportunity to once again be a part of the city of Ann Arbor. One thing that I'd like to point out, I guess, Matt, if you could refer to the exterior elevations. We've worked really hard to position the building to face Maple at the request of staff. We went through several planning exercises that maybe were towards the maximum setback versus the minimum setback. We have tried in this scheme that you see before you for consideration to address the Maple frontage with some predominant signage and kind of a building element. It's not intended to be the entry because the entry is on the west side. So we worked very hard to create a destination that's on the west side of the building and carry those materials back through on the northeast side of the structure that's proposed. So with that, I'll open it to other comment and happy to address any comments.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the commission on this proposal? All right, seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing. Now I'm going to read the motion. All right. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the LA Fitness Maple Village site plan, subject to resolving all outstanding issues identified by staff prior to scheduling for city council action. Do I have a commissioner that will move this? Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Commissioner Woods. Now we can have commission discussion. Anybody want to start us off? Go ahead, Commissioner Gabriel.
Is the engineer present or no? Yes. Whoever you are, please step forward. Could you describe how stormwater is working here so that we can understand, I think I get it by looking at the plans, but it'd be nice for everybody to have a little tour, and then I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure. My name is Steve Hermiller with Manick and Smith Group. Address 65 Cadillac Square, Suite 3311, Detroit, Michigan. Originally, when Maple Village was starting to redevelop a couple years ago, we looked at the entire watershed area in and around the shopping center, which is 31, 32 acres. And if you've been there, you obviously know that it's almost like a funnel from the external peripheral, and it goes down to the very main entrance of the shopping center. So though this part that was formerly, well, the English Garden and a Chinese restaurant, those two tracks there, that is now the LA Fitness, those raindrops still watershedded through the main shopping center. And back a year and a half ago, we presented in our drainage analysis and study to Washtenaw County Water Resources the evidence that we were trying to treat as much as the rainwater upstream of the subject tract, which was not the LA Fitness, or the application before you previously handled the majority of the shopping center, and all the raindrops that are handled here did accommodate that. However, we still did infiltration tests throughout the shopping center. It was a very good perk rate. We had 17 to 31 inches per hour, which was excellent. And so, which is why we had all the bioretention swales and infiltration swales throughout the shopping center. On this immediate, these two tracks, what you see within the kind of the dog bone area right in the middle of the parking area, that is going to be the bioretention facility that will enhance and supplement what's already on the shopping center. So we have the stormwater flushing and going overland into that bioretention area, being infiltrated and then heading back into the main storm line, which kind of doglegs through the west side of these two parcels.
So this one is not overflowing to another bioswale that's in the parking lot. It's kind of its own system that's directly
It
connected to the
is,
storm.
correct. It is its own system, correct.
So can you explain why your catch basin at the bottom of that bioswale is at the lowest point instead of raised, so it actually has a chance to infiltrate instead of heading directly into the catch basin there?
I'm not
Your
sure.
rim elevation is below the grades. There's no ponding going on there.
Right. And I'm wondering, we did make an update to the plan, and I'm wondering if this update to the plan was an older version. Matt, do you know if this plan in the screen was the one that was just revised?
This is,
Okay.
so this was what was given to us via the E-Track connection that was sent out today. I'm not sure if that was the most recent plan or not, but it wasn't like the staff report thing. It was,
Okay.
okay. So,
Grades actually go to the center of the parking lot. They sheet across and into the bioswale and then go into that catch basin. There's also two catch basins along the main entry drive where there's also bioswales in there.
no, I understand. So what I'm wondering is, does this catch basin, if this catch basin was related to another bioswale somewhere else, I can see funneling it out of here and putting it somewhere else. What I don't understand is why the rim is not up a little bit so that you actually get like 6 inches of ponding. Right now, it's all vegetated as if it's gonna be a stormwater facility, but really what's happening is the water's just funneling down into those catch basins, both in that main body and then that other smaller one that you have in the kind of lower left of the site plan that we're seeing. So I was just confused by that, because usually the rim is set up slightly so that
That
water has
should
a
be
chance
set
to
up.
infiltrate.
I agree with that.
So that's something that could be resolved then, Matt, prior to, I'm just surprised it was passed, frankly,
See, that's-
because like the whole point is to not funnel it down, it's to do that.
Design of the overall plan, but that's still important to make sure it functions.
Right, as intended, and that it's as flat as possible, it has a chance to go down, you've got these great
Right.
soils, so why not take advantage of it?
To your
But-
point, I think that was probably a typo in our adjustment that was in the most recent submittal.
Okay. And then I guess I would just, a word of caution for you all and for the owner. I live on this side of town, so I shop here all the time, and I've watched it in the rain. And though I completely appreciate the effort that has been gone into redoing that whole parking lot, several of those big bioswales are being completely bypassed by the water, and they're all heading to one at the end. It's overflowing and going to the catch basin at the bottom of the site.
Okay.
So I guess as these retrofits happen, and they're tricky.
Yeah.
I know they are, because you're dealing with grades, you can't just suddenly raise and
Right.
lower parking. I understand that.
Right.
But, you know, that fine tuning of really how it's flowing, that's important, because it's not functioning the way you're describing it. And I totally get that that was the intention, but in terms of the way water is actually working out there in a decently heavy rain, it's not happening that way.
Right.
So you had all this space up on the sort of west side of the site, those long ones that are running perpendicular to that final one at the end, and they're just being bypassed. There's nice little cuts in there and all that sort of thing, and the water's just going right on by.
Yeah.
So as you go forward with this new one, I would just, you know, take extreme care, because there's a lot of places in Allen Creek where we don't have that kind of infiltration, and we need it
Yeah.
big time, because there are other places, this, you know, that pipe is completely undersized.
Right.
And there are places where that, tops pop off the catch basins on a regular basis. And so any place we have good soils and there's an opportunity for redevelopment, we gotta make that thing work.
Okay.
So please pay attention to the detail, not just in the design, but in the construction observation, and making sure that all those grades are right on, so it's performing the way that you intended to, which is, I'm sure, what you wanted for the other one,
Right.
but it didn't turn out that way.
Okay. Duly noted, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Weatherby.
Les, do you think that you get off of my mania for having front entrances on things? I really appreciate bringing the building up to the sidewalk. I think that is a more kind of retro modern look, and I think it will make that area, as you rehab that whole area, I think that will help. English Gardens, we drove around there this weekend, and this is kind of a nice spot. I wish I knew it was here. I think that bringing it up to the street is really going to help, and I appreciate that. What I was wondering is, if you're accessing, and there's actually a fair number of walkers and bikers and skateboarders and in that area, as you're walking the Maple Road sidewalk, I realize that the entrance is on the other side, but can somebody speak to, as a pedestrian, we're doing these kind of pedestrian amenities, how does a pedestrian get into the opening, or the front door, or the back door, or the side door? Because I understand why you've put the sort of front in the back, but what happens in the front?
In order to, I guess if your question is related, how do they get to the front? We are, you do have an existing sidewalk down the Maple Village right of way. And it does slope down there in grade, kind of like the funnel I was suggesting toward the more center of the shopping center. And what we are doing is we have a sidewalk that hugs I'll say the north, at that southern entrance, we have a sidewalk that follows and hugs the north face of the building and is ADA compliant. And it goes westerly to the west side of the building, which is where the bike racks and all the ADA compliance for cars, et cetera, would be, which allows them to access the west side of the building.
Okay, because I saw in somewhere where it talked about handrails. Are there,
Right, there is gonna be a handrail on the,
Yeah, that's gonna be on the wall along here, because the grade of the building is such that there's a low retaining wall along the side here as the grade goes up. So there has to be a handrail along the sidewalk, right next to where there's a grade change there as well.
because the site just within the frontage drops 10, 11 feet. You know, a building plat is flat.
Right.
And so on the southern side of the site, it's benched into the earth, and then on the north side of the site, it's exposed with a reveal, more of a 4-foot reveal, which is why we have that kind of grade. You see all the contours that step into the building on the north face. So on the southeast corner of the building, we do have a retaining wall. It's about 4 feet, and it tapers north to about 1 foot. For a short distance, it will have a handrail there, so somebody doesn't fall in, you know, into the lower portion of the site. And then on the north face of the building, we do have handrail along the sidewalk. Doesn't really need it, but we put it there as an amenity for anybody leaving or exiting the building, so that way that handrail is available.
because their legs are going to be so shaky, they're going to
Well, maybe, you know, let's hope they're shaky because of all the exercise, you know, so.
So I'm still just kind of confused. If I'm, you know, how am I going to walk,
If
like,
you're-
from where you are?
If you're walking north
Yep,
on the southeast corner, up the sidewalk, what you're gonna do, as soon as you get to the northeast side of the building, there's a sidewalk that connects to the existing sidewalk in the
Okay.
right-of-way, and it goes up a gentle ramp, ADA compliant ramp, along the north face of the building, and then along the western side of the building.
And comes into the main entrance in the center. And also, I'll point out too, that there's, one of the comments that came up through planning was to make sure that we have some connectivity with the rest of the shopping center. Matt, you may want to put if you could put the overall plan on.
I think I have one of the,
It would be one of the, you may not have it.
yeah, we don't have it in this packet, but.
That's okay.
At any rate, the point was, I guess, there is a sidewalk that connects all the way right down the center of the shopping center that comes up right into right northerly, that intersects the overall development. And then we provided an access way to come across and to continue right to the front door as well. So walkers can access, bikers can access from both Maple Street or the other side of the shopping
so you don't have to
center.
frogger over to the other
Yeah.
side of the shopping
And,
center.
I've got small copies of the sidewalk.
I think that,
Okay.
that
That
helps.
satisfies, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And there's no, so putting a door on the Maple side wouldn't work with your interior, is that?
There's an emergency access door there, which we do have a ramp for egress, but it's not because of the security nature of the facility, which is solely on the west side, that's where all the patrons need to come in, badge in, et cetera, so they can get shaky legs.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And then one question is kind of a staff and petitioner. As I said, I was over there, and I'm not on that side of town a whole lot, but there was a whole lot of parking available. And I know that it looks like you've done what you can to kind of have those 20 spaces be used from, how many spaces would you ideally like if we didn't have, I mean, is this enough parking? Is this too
Right.
much parking?
I think that's a question for Fitness International, really,
Just comment
but
on one
not.
thing from staff, they're actually at the minimum
Right.
of what they.
No, I realize, I mean, this is,
Based on code,
this
right,
is
but-
probably,
Based on code, correct.
this is probably more a question for us internally, but I'm just, it's kind of, I wonder, I mean, January 2nd, you might need all of those, maybe not, you know?
I've been with the company, it'll be 13 years in September. And it's the first time we've asked for more
Okay.
parking than code is
Okay.
written for our use. Typically, I'm sorry, less parking, yeah. Our demands are in the 200 to 225 range. And here, I think we have 120 spaces allocated to the user, 100,
150, and then we have
150.
And then the 20.
So this is on the low end of of what we typically use for operational purposes.
Okay.
And I think it should be noted also, this is a small parcel of a much larger development, and there's a lot of, our peak demand is different than some of the other peak demands in the center. You know, people work out in the mornings and, you know, then they're off to do their daily activities. Where a lot of the retailers that are in the center, their peak demand would be towards the middle to the latter part of the day. So we fit in well with the other uses that are on the property.
Right, no, I agree with that. I think I think it's a good, I still think it's a lot of parking for the whole
Yeah.
area, but I know that's not your issue. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Woods?
I just have a couple of questions. One, could someone explain the lighting that's going to take place in that area? And then also, I'd just like to know about the hours and that sort of thing. I'm not sure which one of you gentlemen would handle that.
I'll address the hours of operation if you don't mind.
Okay.
So our typical hours are 5 a.m. in the morning till midnight, Monday through Thursday, with reduced hours on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. Because that's going to be different for that shopping center area now. I think everything kind of closes down about 9 or 10, something like that, with some of the stores over there.
Yeah, operationally, the parking lot that you see here will be controlled so that there's adequate illumination for safety, obviously for many of our patrons and members and things that are coming to the center.
Good. And as someone who, it seems like this evening, everybody lives someplace near one of these developments. So this is more in my neighborhood, and I'm glad to see that. I have to just say, though, that I'm sorry we won't have a place to get our flowers. English Gardens, really, too bad you didn't get over there. It's really nice. Is there any possibility of you all adding a little something with flowers at some point, sir?
We're always open to any tenants that sell goods such as flowers.
Okay.
And absolutely, it's something we're open to.
Okay,
We have plenty of retail space available.
Oh.
Comes available from time to time.
that's good to know. Were you gonna talk about the light?
There will be LED lighting that matches the lighting with the rest of the shopping center.
Okay.
There's a photometric plan that was included in the packet.
Yeah, there's in the site plan.
Okay.
Any other questions on lighting, I guess?
No.
We aren't having any, there are no wall packs.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. Thank you.
All right, other commissioner questions? I have a question about windows and whether we will actually be able to see, what we'll be able to see people doing. Like, will they be real windows, first of all? Will there be people like working out behind them? Second of all.
Real people.
Real people.
They're not in the locker rooms. Well, let's start with Maple. On the bottom of the page
Yeah.
that you have up on the screen, that is our swimming pool.
Okay,
So you will have plenty of activity occurring on the Maple frontage. As we turn the corner into the entrance of the shopping center, the easterly half is the locker rooms, but then we get into our circuit area. So there'll be exercise equipment and plenty of activity on those 3 windows, which are also protected with canopies.
okay.
So it's not blasting light into the space. Coming around to the front of the building, again, 3 windows exposing the circuit, and then our entry element, 2-story. The single window is the kids club. So there's a lot of activity there. And then on the south elevation is rather limited. There are windows that are above the mirror elevations in group exercise rooms, such as aerobics and our cycling.
Got it. I appreciate that they're real windows, that from this, I would, like Commissioner Weatherby, would love to have an entrance on the street, but having people being able to see activity going on and not just whatever, spandrel glass or whatever that's called, I appreciate that. So, and just to be clear, can you go back one more elevation? There we go. On that, I guess this would be the northeast corner. Is that just artwork where I'm seeing like?
Yeah, this.
And what's proposed in the northeast corner are the two sets of building, and I know signage is separate application, but there's two building signs proposed on the northeast corner, and then sport-themed graphics that will be surface illuminated. We don't want to blind anybody as they're going by. It'd be a nice, gentle cast, but just to give the theme of the destination.
Got it. So even if they can't see the people in the swimming pool, they get
There's
the
activity.
idea about what's going
Yeah,
on.
it's a
Okay.
material change, it's a color change, so something it was a blank wall, and we felt as though it needed something
Great,
in that
thank you.
corner.
Thanks. And I also want to commend you for putting additional bicycle hoops out there. Like, I would hope that people are cycling to there, and then they have really wobbly legs cycling home. But I shared Commissioner Weatherby's question about whether or not 170 spots, while this is what our code requires at minimum, was more than what would be needed. But it sounds like you actually often have more than that. Hopefully Ann Arbor cyclists will get out and get to the gym too. That's the only comments that I have. Anything else? All right, then we're ready for a vote.
I just want to clarify, one commissioner had suggested a potential additional comment that the elevation of the catch basin in the bioretention swale be reviewed to see for opportunity for ponding. So I just wanted to make sure the commission is clear if you wanted to add that in addition to the other identified conditions.
Yeah,
you
I would love to do that. Do I have to create the language right now? I'm not prepared to do that.
No, as long as it's, I would suggest that it's friendly if Commissioners Weatherby and Woods support it as well. To be clear, we will, in addition to the remaining engineering requirements, we will ask them to evaluate raising the catch basin to
Promote infiltration.
to promote infiltration in the bioretention.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Agree. All right. Very good. So now we can vote. All of those in favor of the motion as read with the friendly amendment, please raise your right hand and say yes. Yes. And that is everyone. Thank you very much. All right. We are on to the third item within our regular business. This is our master plan review. Once a year, the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission and Planning and Development Services Unit review the city master plan. The city master plan is a collection of plans or elements that work together to describe a vision for the city's future and guide decisions about its land use, transportation, infrastructure, environment, housing, and public facilities. The adopted plan elements can be found on the city's website at www.a2gov.org/masterplan. As part of its annual review, the Planning Commission is seeking comments about the city master plan, including elements that should be studied for possible change or new elements that should be added to the master plan. This information is important to the Planning Commission in setting its work program for the upcoming fiscal year. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Leonard for our staff report.
Yes, thank you. So you have started some of this work through your retreat and eventually will be presented to the commission in a work plan about what master planning work you want to take on in the coming year. However, as we do, we also open up that opportunity for public comment on the same. So this is a public hearing, just as described, to provide an opportunity for general comment on our master plans. Specifically, we have 7 master plans that comprise, when we're talking about the city master plan, it is actually comprised of 7 documents. the sustainability framework from 2013, the land use element from 2013, the downtown plan from 2009, our transportation plan from 2009, our non-motorized transportation plan and update from 2007 and updated in 2013, our Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, which is recently adopted in 2016, and our Natural Features Master Plan. So these comprise our master plan, and additionally, we also have a series of resource documents that further guide the Planning Commission in the city and land use policy. I'm not going to read all of those. There are 17 provided in the proposed resolution. To be clear, as is convention, I'm not asking for any action by the Planning Commission tonight. Typically, we do provide the opportunity to separate the public comment and the action on these resolutions. I have merely provided the resolution in the memo so you can have a sense of where we're headed in the context of this action. I do want to highlight two specific resource documents that I am proposing to remove from previous versions of this resolution. One is the Consolidated Housing Plan and Strategy. This is a recurring document that the city undertook previously when it was its own entitlement community, which is a fancy way of saying the city had a direct relationship with HUD. Now that happens through a collaboration with the urban county, which is made up of 18 different jurisdictions in the county, and the county actually staffs that. And that document is still put together on a every 5-year basis. However, I think for a lot of the goals relative to some of that investments, the new housing affordability and economic equity study from 2015 is a better master plan vision for some of those goals. And then lastly, the library block planning and urban design study. This is a plan from some time ago that recommended potential development of the library lot, including parking and development. Now that parking is at the library lot and a proposed purchase has been approved by the city, I would propose eliminating that plan as well. So to be clear, the public hearing is an opportunity for comments on these planning documents, if they should still be the guiding policy documents for the city as we move forward in undertaking regulatory actions, and if there are new master planning efforts we should consider.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. Now I will open it up to the public. So this is a public hearing. If anyone has comments related to the master plan, particularly the elements that Mr. Leonard just noted about things that we need to look at again or that we ought to look at because they're not included in our suite, this is the time for that. And again, please step to the podium, and if you could sign in with your name and address, we would appreciate it.
I just wrote, my name is Nancy Stoll, and I live at 1314 Broadway Street. That is part of the Lower Town area. It's a historic district just kind of north of the Lower Town area. And that's what I'd like to address. I'm not familiar, unfortunately, with all the different parts of the master plan, but I believe the part that I'm addressing is page 54 of the master plan, and it says right there, Lower Town lot or something like that. And I would like to encourage you to keep that part. For future developments of that area, we feel whoever put that together did a very sensitive job that makes a lot of sense. I can read, this is a large document that I provided to the Planning and Development Services, and I guess they forwarded it to you guys. I don't know if you've received it or not, but I need to make sure that that has reached you. But I was just going to read a little bit from it, and it's mostly pictures. It's 30 pages long, but it's mostly pictures of lovely buildings in Ann Arbor. So this quote here that pertains to Lower Town area, it says that buildings that front Traver Creek should be no more than 4 stories in height to minimize visual impacts to adjoining areas and contain residential uses. Building height exceeding 5 stories in other areas of Lower Town should be constructed as follows. and it describes different buildings existing buildings around town, which, again, I have pictures of them in here, but it really made sense. Buildings that would fit the area, the massing and size and nature of them seemed to really fit the area. Another thing I wanted to quote from the master plan was that they should be constructed with materials such as stone, brick, and terracotta because of their durability and to create the appearance of permanence. This is right next door to an historic neighborhood, and so it just, again, feels like the use of sort of more traditional materials kind of makes sense. There was that. And then, again, just a little quote here. I support density, but think a judicious citywide planning approach is needed. And we have it in the master plan. Let's follow it. Where in town could high-rise apartments be built that would enhance rather than overwhelm the surrounding area? Perhaps there are other parts of town which can tolerate or benefit from very large buildings. Lower Town is a small and fragile area with potential to be delightful. This is where Ann Arbor began. It should be treated gently. Because we feel, too, that this kind of sets a tone for further development in that area. As you know, it's kind of a blighted, not much going on intersection there. So I think it's important to do this nicely, this new development. So please keep that part of the master plan that pertains to the Lower Town area. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Laura Stroh, also from Broadway, 1327 Broadway. We're all from Broadway, and Ron Mucha is the developer over there. And it's sort of ironic that you are considering the master plan tonight, because it's been on our minds a lot. Just figuring out what to write here. So this is the Kroger's lot we're talking about. And we know how important it is in giving us, we know how important the master plan is in giving us guidelines for development. The developer, whose proposal we are now evaluating, claims that the master plan has no validity. But without it, we are left, as the whole city would be without it, with no reference. It would be a free-for-all, as it is on Broadway right now, where the developer thinks he can ignore the master plan. As we are finding out on Broadway, we need more zoning, more than zoning just to guide us. Not only the developer in creating plans and the city in evaluating them, but the residents need the master plan to guarantee standards and set guidelines. So I urge you to renew the master plan as it is, but also to truly use it to evaluate proposals. If you feel that the master plan is no longer valid, that it is dated or erroneous, you must revise it with the proper hearings and meetings as input. But if you are renewing it, then please use it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Philip Stoll. I live at 1314 Broadway. I'm supportive of the Lower Town portion of the master plan. I think it could be improved a little to provide more protection for Traver Creek. Forgive me for reading. The neighborhood is very concerned about the 1140 Broad Lower Town Morningside project setback from the creek. We support the master plans calling for a pedestrian path along the creek and plant restoration. Given that the path would be on private property, public access needs to be made permanent and irrevocable. Although 1140 Broadway plan set combined does not show setback distance from the creeks, we estimated it's a 60-foot building about 32 feet from the creek. We don't believe this is appropriate for a park-like pedestrian path or the health of the creek. As noted in the master plan, the creek from Nielsen Creek down to the river is already quite degraded, being lined with cement debris and enclosed in cyclone fence. An apartment building and swimming pool were built exceedingly close to the creek in the 60s. Mallard ducks try to use the creek but are thwarted by man-made banks and fence. And this was all to the code when it was built. just as 1140 Broadway's plan set combined is probably to code. The concern is that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past by allowing buildings so close to the waterways. I feel Traver Creek would be a great asset to the development and to the neighborhood and should be protected with greater setback in the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tom Stolberg. I live at 1202 Traver Street. I'm immediately adjacent to the lower town portion of the northeast area. The master plan process, I've been living there 20 years, and I was part of the community effort to study this area and develop the current master plan. It was a good process. A lot of citizens participated, and I feel the outcome was quite good. I do have a concern specifically about the master plan in terms of a narrative that's been developed. And I've heard it repeated. I heard it said by the developer, and I've heard it repeated since then as well, something I do not believe is accurate. I do not believe this master plan was designed specifically for a site plan that has since failed many years ago. I believe the master plan, as I was present and part of the process, was designed by input from the neighbors, from city planners, and whatever planning commission, city council, however far it gets in terms of approving a master plan. It was done right. It was done with a lot of input and study and was not tailored to one specific development. And it's unfortunate that I've heard this story repeated. Once a story gets started, it tends to gain traction. I believe very strongly that this is a good master plan. One of the things called for in the master plan is for a PUD at this site. I know not everybody's fond of PUDs. They have their pros and cons. One potential benefit of a PUD at this site is it is a mixed-use development proposed area, the village center portion of Lower Town, and a PUD would help provide for that. Right now, they're talking about a rezoning to CAR1, campus area residential. My concerns about that zoning are also how it would impact and create a precedent for neighboring properties in that area as well. So to have a mixed-use site, a PUD, I do believe is appropriate. We're talking possible retail, office, residential, all combined. I think some of the benefits of a PUD are also out there and some of the options, community benefits that would be available through a PUD that would include affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever the proper term is, and the various options that are available. I know PUDs, there were some failed PUDs. A lot of that had to do with the economics of the time. So PUDs fell out of favor, but I would encourage you to, if you do take a look at the master plan for this area, consider keeping it PUD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colin Leggett. I live at 1312 Broadway Street. And I'm here also to support the master plan and basically everything that they've said, probably better than I can say it. That I like how the master plan has been developed for that area of town, the Lower Town area. There are some things that could be, may need to be reworked that were not major issues at the time it was initially developed. Say, the need for affordable housing and the lack thereof in the city. So issues like that may need to be reworked and readdressed in the master plan. But I think the general concept for how the Lower Town area should be developed is still relevant and, should be kept. If, you guys don't think that's the case and you don't think developments need to follow that, then I think we should open it up to full public comment to redevelop the master plan so that the whole city and all relevant parties can be involved in developing that. Otherwise, I think plan should be developed with the master plan in mind and following those general guidelines. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, I'm Ron Mucha. I'm with Morningside Group. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor. I live at 3094 Newcastle Road. And as I understand it, we're just talking about the master plan and whether to renew it or review aspects of it, not necessarily to speak about a specific site plan. Obviously, there's been some comment about the 1140 Broadway project, which my partner David Strasberg and I very much look forward to bringing before you for a public hearing. All I would say about the comments tonight is that they are public, and so everyone's entitled to their opinion. But there were a couple comments made about me. One was that I claim that the master plan has no validity, and the other is that he thinks he can ignore the master plan. And those are just false assertions. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the commission on this issue? All right, then I will close the public hearing and read the motion. Sorry, it's my first time chairing, so I need my notes. The motion reads, resolved that the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby approves the City of Ann Arbor Master Plan Resolution and the City of Ann Arbor Resource Information in support of the City Master Plan Resolution dated June 6th, 2017. Do I have a commissioner who wants to move that? Commissioner Briggs, seconded by Commissioner Gibrandal. Discussion.
Movement was to postpone.
Is it a movement to postpone? Do we move to see if there's any discussion?
Yeah, you could do it under postponement before vote or
Okay. What was your movement, Commissioner?
It is to postpone. Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. So it was a movement to postpone. Is there any discussion of the postponement? Seeing none, then we vote on the postponement. All in favor of postponing the motion that I read, please raise your right hand and say yes. Yes. Is that it?
That is it.
Okay. This brings us to item number 10, which is audience participation. So if anyone would like to address the commission on any item, whether listed on tonight's agenda or not, you have 3 minutes. The podium is yours. Please, how does that work?
I just wanted to make sure that you received this document. When would you normally receive that about a specific project? 'Cause
So
I
as
just
communications come
emailed-
in, we forward them to the next available planning commission agenda. We can make sure that it did indeed go. I think it was included in a previous communication packet, but I'll
Do you-
verify that for you.
Does it look at all familiar? It was like, it's.
Yeah, I'm familiar with
okay,
it, yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure you got it. Thank you so much.
Anyone else want to address the commission? Okay. We will move on to item 11, which is commission proposed business. Does anyone propose anything? Okay, well then, I can entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Commissioner Woods, seconded by Commissioner Weatherby. All in favor of adjourning? Yes. That is unanimous.